Hello and welcome back to Galgorm Hall. You'll see in front of you is the scratch build bridge that I've been working on for the layout, and I've just started the actual painting process. And while I continue on with that, I just want to tell you why I'm doing this video. Now, I've done a couple of these videos before on showing how to get that weathered brick technique, one of which was on the Victorian houses, and a few years ago I did it a very basic how to tone down brickwork. But in this case here, this is going to be a heavily weathered bridge. I want the brickwork to look really dirty and grimy, and I thought I would just show you, using essentially the same methods as I've done in previous videos, but just how whenever you're applying that second coat of paint, just a couple of wee subtle changes, and even also just the colours of paint that we're using. Okay, so I am initially painting this directly onto the Plasticard with Revel Matte 37, which is reddish brown. It's more of a deep red in my opinion, rather than reddish brown, but it's a good deep red. It works well for brickwork, and I'm making sure that I apply a good even coating across the whole surface. I'm not too concerned about not getting into the grouting pieces of the Plasticard, as these will be filled with a grout at a later date, or after the initial painting is finished. But I do want to make sure that I've got good coverage. And the other thing I also am trying to make sure that I don't do is to clog up those grout lines in the embossed Plasticard, because if we do that, then we lose we basically lose the embossed effect, and whenever we go to apply our paint to fill those grout lines, it's just not going to work. Okay, so we're back, and this paint has now fully dried. So we're going to apply the next stage of paint, and what I'll do is I'll show you in this sort of area here, and then I could crack on and do the rest of it. We're going to be using Revel's Matte 84, which is leather brown, and it's a nice dark contrasting colour to the red that we've currently got on it. Now, what we're looking to do here, we're going to do it in small sections, so I'll start with this triangular section here, and same as before, we're going to apply the paint evenly across the entire brickwork, making sure that we don't clog up any of those grout lines again. Now, the idea is with this paint here, as I've demonstrated before in previous videos, is that we rub some of this off with some paper towel. Now, I have to be quite careful with this because this is all joined with card, and I don't want to damage the support. But as you can see, I'm applying a certain amount of pressure to that abutment to take off some of that brown paint, and hopefully you can see there that we have some of the original orangey colour of the Plasticard coming through too. Now, this choice of paint, the two colours, is to basically try and give as much of a representation of heavily weathered, darkened brick from years of soot and grime gathering in around the brickwork. and by using these two colours it does produce quite a decent effect of that. I will, once all the painting's done, also apply some blacks and weathering powders to highlight certain areas, particularly along the capping stone lines and then underneath in the tunnel section of the bridge. But for now I want this paint to do most of the work for me. Now if you feel that you've gone too heavy or lifted too much of your paint off, just go back over it again with your brush, particularly along those top edges where the dirt and that will gather and the bricks will become really grimy, and then you can just do a lighter pass with your paper towel afterwards. At this stage it still looks quite messy. Once we apply the acrylic wash for the grout, that'll hopefully pull it all together. But hopefully you can see that's already getting a nice grimy effect. I did a couple earlier on and they've begun to dry off. This is the abutment for the other side, and hopefully you can see there in this light. I'm trying to catch it in such a way that you can see it decently enough. Let me turn this spotlight off. Does that make any difference? Not really. But hopefully you can see there that we've got a nice dirty line around the edges and then along the joins there, and there's some of that orangey colour of the brick coming through. Okay, so I'll crack on and I'll finish this off, and then once that's done we'll apply that wash and hopefully it'll all begin to pop. Right, I've just finished this, and as you can see it's not looking too bad at the minute, so it's not. There's nice dark patches here, there's some light stuff. I've tried to certainly in underneath the bridge to keep any of the light stuff further to the bottom, and then if we turn it to the other side it's not maybe as easy to see with the light coming off one side of the support and at the front. Now this is still drying, but I'm happy enough still to work at this while it is in the drying stage. But what we'll do is I'll go back to the ones I had started originally and we're going to turn to acrylics. Okay, I have a pot of black. Now with this here grouting, I want to have it fairly dark, so I'm not adding too much white to it. At the end of the day we can add some more if we feel it's going to be too light or too dark. That there is sort of what I'm looking for. Now we need to get our kitchen towel ready again, and if you remember from previous times I've done this, basically we are applying the grey over the top of everything as we've done with the previous two coats. And once that's on, we'll take the towel and we'll wipe it off. Okay, and I'm going to leave in this instance a little bit. I'm not wiping it as clean as maybe I would have done on other bills that maybe I don't want to have just as a heavy a distressing of that brick, because this this application will only help give that impression of the dirty brickwork. Okay, and we're going all the way around this. This to me is the fun bit of painting this brickwork, you get those first two initial colours on, and then you start having fun with the grouting aspect, and it just brings the whole thing together, so it does. And that's that one there. Now it will dry a little bit later. Actually, if we just set a comparison of a before and after, you can already see it's a much dirtier and a grimier look to it. So we'll do the same with this one. Let's start with a big section here. Hopefully we'll be able to see it. I would also, in this case, whenever you're rubbing it off, try and rub it in the direction the rainwater would flow, because any residue that is left, you will have that sort of streaking effect, particularly from in underneath the coping stones, which will just help to add to the effect. And you see, hopefully you can see there at the bottom, it's quite dark. And again, I'm just going to leave that because that will sort of be the dirt coming up from the base, from rainwater splash, all that sort of thing, you know. Moving on to the bigger one, on the underneath the bridge, I will ensure that I leave quite heavy dark marks to it, as the soot and grime will certainly gather, and will have gathered from steam engine days, and even I suppose for that matter diesels chugging in through the bridge as well. Now, can you see that? Can I get the light in there? No, I can't really. Let me do this top end here just to show you what I'm trying to do, and then I'll carry on and finish this. I'm sure you've had enough of watching me putting grey paint onto some Plasticard. Oop, hit the camera. Okay, so in along the top it's still quite heavy, and it's as much as I'm going to rub off of that. Right, I'll crack on and finish this, and we'll come back. I'll maybe do some of the detailing in that of the cement, or the concrete surrounds and capping stones, before I add a couple of final pictures just to show the final look of this effect. Alright, okay, we'll call that job done. You'll see that I have painted the capping stones and the stonework in underneath the bridge, as I said I would. That was done using Revell's Matte 75, which is stone grey, and then that same grey mix from the black and white acrylic paints that I did on the brickwork was also applied over the top of that, and also wiped off in a similar sort of fashion, and particularly on those bits of stonework underneath the bridge, it was done in a vertical fashion, so that you get that impression of rain dripping down and making all that staining run in the way that it would. That more or less completes the bridge. Obviously the plate girders need to be done, but I'll keep that for another video. But in the time being, thanks very much for watching. There's a few photos at the end there just to show a few more close-up shots of the work that was carried out, and I'll chat again to you soon in the next video. See you for now. Bye.